And welcome back on this week's episode of the Broken Kid Podcast. I'm your host, Alex Silva, and on this week's episode, we're going to be doing a podcast revolving around Deadpool 2 and pretty much how great of a film it is. And, let's not ignore Deadpool 1 and Deadpool 3, but, it's of course one of my favorite movies as somebody who loves movies, and pretty much one of the reasons why I like to do what I'm doing now, and in hopes of getting out there and creating influence with my content. And, of course, one day I want to become an actor. And Ryan Reynolds, the man behind the mask, the man who really helped get this thing moving, and of course there's Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick. But we all know the long history behind trying to get Deadpool, and if you don't, we're going to go ahead and get into it. But I am your host, Alex Silva. Go ahead, grab a seat, grab some popcorn, grab some illicit substances. I don't care what you do. This is a time for you to relax, have a good time, and most importantly, forget about everything that's going out in the world. We know it's very hectic. That being said, we're going to go ahead and get into this movie review / movie podcast. And just hope you guys enjoy it. And before we start, go ahead and type in the comment section which one of the three Deadpool movies, Deadpool 1, Deadpool 2, and I know sometimes Deadpool and Wolverine isn't really regarded as like a standalone film because it does bring Hugh Jackman back into the mantle of Wolverine. That being said, there also is another movie. It's called Once Upon a Deadpool, which is like the more PG version because Ryan Reynolds wanted to make a movie that parents could see with their kids, and they didn't have to worry about all the profanity and cussing, but it still has that Deadpool type edge and humor. Now, go ahead and comment which one is your favorite, which ones have you seen, which ones did you not like. Hopefully that's not the case. But to give a little backstory on the whole history of Deadpool, before there was Deadpool and Wolverine, there was, of course, ideation. How do we get this film made? Or not me, but more so Ryan Reynolds. And the funny thing about this movie is that a lot of people think when it came out in about 2015, 2016 era, of course, it was one of... It wasn't... There weren't too many movies that were rated R and that inappropriate and that edgy. So this was a big leap for Marvel to get behind a movie like this. And you would think that, it's a beloved character, but there really hadn't been any screen adaptations of this character. It had been in cartoons or like animated shows here and there. That being said, it had also had its own game. But Ryan Reynolds got his first whiff of Deadpool. And that's almost a reference to Deadpool and Wolverine, where Deadpool starts off by saying, "This isn't who I am. This isn't who I want to be. The subtle whiff of necrophilia, the violence, it isn't who I am. It isn't who I want to be. Who I want to be? Well, to show you, let me take you down a path." And then, But that's the opening to Deadpool and Wolverine, where he's doing the dance sequence to Bye Bye Bye. But he got his first whiff in around 2002 era, I believe, or 2005, I believe, when he was playing Hannibal King which was his character in the Blade movies, and that was alongside Wesley Snipes. And it all comes full circle years later, like 15 plus years later, because in Deadpool and Wolverine, spoiler alert, Wesley Snipes reprises his role as no other than the Hunter, the vampire slayer, Blade. And, on that set, one of the directors one of the producers for another movie pretty much said, "Hey, if they ever make a Deadpool movie, you're going to be the one who plays them. You have to be. There's no one else who can get the tone right. It has to be you." Which is kind of funny because now there's what's his name? The dude from 2.5 Men? Oh, no, that's Charlie Sheen. I'm talking about How I Met Your Mother. How the blonde man, that man is now voicing the voice of Deadpool for the VR game. But anyhow, they showed him a magazine and they said, "Hey, they showed him the comic, I believe, and one of the first pages that he opens up is, it's pretty much how Deadpool is very meta, self-referential. He says that he read the first page he opens up to, he reads a little panel that says, "I look like a mix between a Sharpay and Ryan Reynolds," which is so fun. And I don't know what that meant, because around that era, Ryan Reynolds wasn't that much of a household name. He had done Just Friends, Van Wilder, National Lampoon, and he was doing Blade Trinity, and he had been in Two Girls in a Pizza Place, which was his original one of his first shows that really kind of got him started. It was a sitcom, and it required a lot of improv, but that's what he saw. And it's kind of like, it's just so poetic how it all came around. And of course, fast forward to a few years later, now it's 2007-8, he gets the role of Deadpool, they start filming, and Ryan Reynolds was very trying to be persuasive and lightly adamant about how much they were steering away from how close it was to the comic portrayal, and it wasn't very close. That's like taking Hitler and portraying him as like Mother Teresa, because we all saw X-Men Origins, and that's where he makes his first real movie appearance in a live-action film. Now, I like to stand for that film because Hugh Jackman did a good job. Now, what you don't know about that film is that Ryan Reynolds, aside from starring as Wade Wilson, which I think we need to get more Wade Wilson in the movies, because in Deadpool 1, there's a lot of cutout footage where it shows him going to Tijuana, I believe, and he's practically getting like cancer treatment, but it turns out that it's fake cancer treatment and that people are abusing people who are sick. Let me go ahead and check that this is filming. Yeah, it still is. We're still rolling. But anyhow, we get to see him as Wade Wilson, and the reason I say that is because we all know what happens where he gets hideously scarred, and from that point on, it's permanent. There is no more Wade Wilson. We get to see him, with the exception of Deadpool 2, as Wade Wilson in the little dream sequences. But X-Men Origins is known for messing it up horrendously. Just this story of Wade Wilson. But I wanted to defend it, like I was saying, that the parts where Wade Wilson is Wade Wilson and not Deadpool are so good because Ryan Reynolds was responsible for writing that, because there was a writer's strike, so he had to write his own stuff, which is like really stressful. And the commitment to the character, he wanted to really play this character as well as he could have, and even though there was a lot of things thrown in his way, he was still doing his best to commit to it, which is just admirable, because he stuck with this character for so many years, which is why we understand why he calls it the worst marriage he's ever been in. And of course, we all know how that happens. They practically drag Deadpool, his first real appearance, through the mud. So it's almost like, why are we gonna, they practically shot themselves in the foot. Because if you're gonna make any character and you're gonna put them into any movie, what you want to do is you want to set them up for success from the beginning. You want to plant seeds of success so that when it does sprout, it's a, not so much a monetization success. It's not all about the money, but what studios don't get is that people really care about storytelling. And we all saw how it happened. For some strange reason, he comes out with these blades on here, as opposed to his adamantium katanas. He shoots lasers, and the way they give him the spades eyes, I like to call them, the spades design. I don't know who decided that, but somebody was smoking too much crack when they were doing this. Somebody spiked their water with like meth, and they drink it, and they thought, this sounds like a great idea. It's almost like sexiest man alive. It's not scientific, is it? He's not scientifically the sexiest man alive. And we're oh shit. Okay, we're back on track. Rolling. Come on. Hopefully. Do you want to vote for someone? Well, now you have the chance to do so. With the Face of the Halloween competition right around the corner, and we're nearing down to the final 10, you have just a chance. If you want to give somebody the lucky chance to win a lucky 13K, that's right, 13K, not 31,000, but 13K, feel free to click the link below, or if you're on the page already, just go ahead and verify your account with your Facebook account, and you'll be able to vote once every 24 hours. And remember, everybody's entitled to one good scare. We're putting on the cover of People's Magazine, right? The people must have just thought he looks good, his movie's gonna do well, he's been in a lot of them. And you know what? I'm surprised Pedro Pascal isn't gonna be in it. I'm surprised Pedro Pascal isn't in Ryan Reynolds' pants right now. And that's not an insult. It's more about how you can find this man everywhere. Pedro Pascal, you can find him everywhere. But of course, back to the Deadpool thing of X-Men Origins. It was a horrible portrayal. Everything was nasty. It was a demise. I'd rather have the entire Nazi population spit in my face. I'd rather have that. And that being said, look, we're just gonna settle it now. The Deadpool X-Men Origins is a decent film. It had potential, but it's almost like what people think is the Spider-Man 3, the Sam Raimi one. A lot of people, given time, it's going to come back around, and people are going to say that it's a good film. Now, of course, I'm not defending what they did with Wade Wilson, or with Deadpool, supposedly Deadpool. Because shooting the lasers, all this, it's like a kid's dream. Nobody was there in the writer's room aside from Ryan Reynolds and maybe a few other people to say, hey, let's put a stop to this. I'm starting to look like Britney Spears during her mental breakdown when she shaved her head. Stop! That's what Ryan Reynolds should have taken those adamantium katanas that he was practicing with, and he should have used them to impale somebody. But that being said, whoever it's just a weird. My God, they got a lot of it wrong, because in that movie, when you take the merc with the mouth, when you take his mouth away, he is no longer the merc with the mouth. He is a man of a shell. And when you bring him on to the screen with his mouth showed, you are wasting so much potential. Because Deadpool is not supposed to be a quiet character. He's not supposed to be he's easygoing, and because of that, he's able to do things that are bad or inappropriate, or as I like to say, morally flexible. And I think that's the strength of Deadpool. Anywhere you put him, he's going to make any situation so much better. And of course, that's usually, in my opinion, that's where it starts to fall downwards. And I think Deadpool 2 does it justice by giving Wade Wilson, or Deadpool, the real Deadpool, our Deadpool, and that should be the hashtag for this movie. Not my Deadpool. Almost like not my Roderick. Because remember that? When they recasted another man to another actor to play, Devin Borshwick from, I think that's how you say his name, from the original Diary of a Wimpy Kid movies, and then they brought in somebody who looked like a housewife, like their au revoir, the person who takes care of a house, and they're just there to sleep and take care of the house. Not my Roderick and not my Deadpool. And also, let's make this a movie. Let's bring back Not My Roderick. Let's bring this back. Not My Roderick. We want Devin Borshwick, and we want Diary of a Wimpy Kid, more like Diary of a Handsome Man. Because have you seen the actor now? He's like a fully grown man. He's like eating horses for a living. But anyhow, what was I talking about? Yeah, I went off on a tangent. This is going to happen a lot. Yeah, no. They did it justice in Deadpool 2, and of course, Ryan Reynolds, or our Deadpool, goes back in time, and he prevents the past Ryan Reynolds from ever reading that script for Green Lantern, which also is an abomination, kinda, but I will defend parts of that movie. I don't even know if there's much that we can defend on Green Lantern now with the whole Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds incident for the It Ends With Us on set. This ends with us? It ends with us? There's a poster up there for that movie, ironically. But that being said, he also kills the Wade Wilson version / Deadpool version from the X-Men Origins and kills him. And that's when he says the famous line that goes something along the lines, your old friend Wade Wilson is going to ask you to settle up again. When he does, make sure you say yes. And that's when Hugh Jackman is like, huh? I don't know how they shot that whole footage. Because, it's archival footage, and it's not like it was from 2 years ago. So the actors don't look the same. Hugh Jackman is aging well, but he doesn't look like he did as much. He doesn't look ugly. But the whole thing was just funny how they were paying homage to the fans. We know that this is disgusting. We also know what you want. We want Wolverine to come back for a fully fledged Deadpool and Wolverine team up. And, my goodness. It's a good thing that he did that. But, that's the first stint. And, of course, it wasn't that successful. People were mad. And I know that there's a story where Wolverine said, not Wolverine, but where Ryan Reynolds said to the executives, if you show this, they're gonna go wild. And he said, I know. And the executive said, yeah, we know. And he said, no, not in a good way. If you guys put this out there, the fans are gonna be mad. And of course, they show it at Comic-Con, and it doesn't get a whole bunch of reviews. And that was around 2009, and we all know what happened after that. He accepts the role, I think reluctly, of Green Lantern. Let me make sure this is still recording. He takes on the role, the mantle, or more like the lantern of Green Lantern, and that's where he meets his beautiful wife, Blake Lively. And at the time he was like married to Scarlett Johansson, and they were on their way out. And of course, Ryan Reynolds has a long history of dating, which is just amazing. But that being said, here we are now. We all know how the Green Lantern went. Horrible. Even Ryan Reynolds said that it was the death of a superhero. For the longest time, that's what he represented. The death of a superhero. And, he said he was kind of unhireable, and he had to kind of bounce back from that. And he made, from 2012 to about 2014, it was a weird year. And then somehow, like somewhere in the middle of that time, someone accidentally leaks the footage. And Ryan Reynolds, up until a few weeks ago, I haven't read the article, but there's a new article that he knows. It's titled, "He Knows Who Released the Footage." And that being said, prior to this, he had always joked that he was 70% sure it wasn't him. But, he had they gave him money with a group of a crew to film this footage. And it was test footage, and of course we all know the one that leaked, and it was just, the fans were wild, and they started ravaging the executives at 20th Century Fox with hate mail and stuff. And eventually that's who made the movie. The fans were so angry that they said, we want this movie made. And it's fan driven. It's a fan driven film. The fans made this film. And I remember watching that movie for the first time in theater with my mom and thinking, wow, this is what comedy can be. Comedy can be very, I didn't know what the term was, but you can make fun of yourself. I would later go on to find out it's self-deprecating humor, but of course you can also make fun of others. And the way Deadpool makes fun of others is just so amazing. And he's got a loud mouth. He's the merc with the mouth, of course. And the first one was a success. And then I believe that came out in 2015, I believe. About 3 years later, 2018, I believe, they come out with the Deadpool 2. And this is it's one of my favorite films because it just ups the ante and it gets more inappropriate. And the opening sequence where he says, he's like, "Donde está la biblioteca?" Which literally translates, "I don't bargain, pumpkin blunker." He says the F word. But, and then he flies into the building, does a sweeping kick, and then he gets shot. And then he looks over to the girl to his right and says, "Don't worry, I'm not dead. You're not gonna die. Although these will kill you." And he puts out the cigarette butt. And, that whole movie was it's a good movie because, I think what Ryan Reynolds tries to do with these movies is he tries to add value and emotional value. And he tries to pretty much say, if you could take all the superhero elements, what kind of story is it? And it's a story about a guy who loses his wife, or his lover. He's lost. He doesn't know how to find his way again, but he has a spiritual journey and communicative journey with his wife, with his girlfriend Vanessa, who basically says, you gotta focus on the kid is another way for you to redeem yourself. I know you're scared of confronting everything that you don't think you are, but through this kid you can show yourself that you are capable of being a good person. That's why he goes back to save Russell, and he even sacrifices himself. He gives up his life, and he does it willingly. And he knew that he had to do it in a way that was going to mean something, or he actually had to take his powers and be a human. Now it's all on the line. He puts the collar on, and he uses himself as a shield, and he says, if you're going to kill somebody, let it be me. And what happens inadvertently is he finds out murder is not the option. Getting angry is not the option. What is the better choice is to avoid cynicism and to pursue a life where, we give our life the meaning. And that whole ending scene is just so beautiful. Of course it's riddled with humor here and there. But, the way you compare comedy and emotion in that way, of sadness and grief is just amazing. And that's one reason why I like the whole Deadpool movie. And here's another piece of information. A lot of people don't know this, but Deadpool, Ryan Reynolds, also played the voice of Juggernog. And we're going to bring this podcast to a nice, swift end. If in any way you enjoyed this, feel free to leave a like, a comment, subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. That's the best indicator to let us creators know that we're doing a good job, to leave a comment or subscribe, or just engage with us if you feel like it's something you want to do. We of course don't beg here. That being said, go watch a beautiful movie, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, try to be a great person, try to be like Deadpool here and there, not too much. And that being said, that is the end of this episode for the Broken Kid podcast, and I hope you guys have a Deadpool excellent day.